Okay, so speaking of passwords and password best practices, let's move on to some of our hot tips. We don't have that much time, but we can certainly get to at least one tip from all three of us. One of them, as you said, Ella, is not using the same password for every site. Um, I was going to share a different tip, but actually, now that I think about it, that one is probably the most important tip I have for anybody out there. Um, People think, well, okay, I know that I have to have separate, unique passwords for every site, but does it really matter? This is just Pinterest. This is just, yada, yada, or they think, well, I have this great formula where I use my pet's name and then I use, a different set of characters on one end or the other end. So it really is unique, right? Even though it has my pet's name in there, it's a unique password, right? No, it's really not. I hate to break it to you, but, you know, um, and the reason why it's not, and this kind of comes from some research that I did when I was presenting on LastPass and password managers and how we get hacked, because I think it's important to understand how we can get hacked so we can avoid being hacked. One of the most common ways that we are hacked is a piece of malware gets installed on your system because you, I don't know, download some third-party app or get some, video from a friend, and it downloads a little piece of malware on your system that's called a keystroke logger. And what that keystroke logger does is it just takes a record of every single keystroke you press and it sends it to the hacker, and they start looking for patterns. And once they see your pet's name or whatever that thing is over and over and over again, they get an idea that that is part of your password. So if you once had a password that you thought was unhackable because it was 14 characters long and 7 of that was your pet's name, well, I hate to tell you, but you really only have 7 characters that they have to guess. And if they're using a bot or a script, they will guess 7 characters probably within about 30 minutes at 1,000 guesses per second. So it is not safe to use a part of a password in different passwords. And just from me telling you that story, you can probably extrapolate how unsafe it is to use exactly the same password across your sites. And even if it's like, say, Pinterest, let's say that you use, this variation on your non-secure sites, but you use part of that for a secure site as well. You can see how those two things can be connected, and suddenly they can get access to your bank account or whatever. Now, luckily, just to ease your mind, all financial institutions now that I know of anyway, I think it might be a law, I don't know, maybe it's just industry best practices, but they all do what's called two-factor authentication. So that just adds an extra level of security that even if your password is breached, probably they're not going to make it into your sensitive financial accounts. But that being said, don't you want 2 locks on your door if you live in the middle of New York City? Do you want to rely on just you want 5 locks on your door if you live somewhere. And you just have to basically look at your financial institutions like that. People are constantly trying to breach them. They really are. I'm not lying to you. So, have a secure password, have two-factor authentication, and make sure those passwords